At this time, we're going to stand for a moment of silence. Let's please stand. Let's just bow our heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We met at 5:30 and convened, and now we're for executive session, and now we're in public session. It's good to be here at E.L. Wright. All four of my children attended this school, and it's always like home to me. So I always like. The only thing I said when I walked in here, this room looks like it's smaller to me. I don't know what. Maybe it's me. The years go by. All right. Approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So, second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? I'll move to vote. Voted. There we go. 7-0. Okay, this time we have a consent agenda, including minutes, facilities report, technology report, budget update, student readmission requests, adult education requests, requests for homeschool, and ratification of personnel. Do I hear a motion to approve our consent agenda? So, Mr. Manning?
Second.
Ms. Elkins?
Question.
Yes.
I had some questions on the facility report.
Mm-hmm.
Is it appropriate to address that now? I know we have the consent.
It's about change orders, right?
Correct. That'll be fine. And we can't do the consent for student. Yes, we can. I'm sorry. That'll be fine, Mr. Carter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Okay, we had a motion and a second. In discussion, if no, vote please. You can cast your vote now. Okay, motion carries 7-0. At this time, we have our time of special recognitions. Again, glad to be here to E.L. Wright. Dr. Brochu, who's going to start this for us?
Thank you, sir. I would like to call on Ken Blackstone, Executive Director for Communications and Strategic Partnerships.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Brochu and staff. Tonight we have a few individuals to recognize, and as I call you folks forward, if you'd please come up and I'll tell everybody about each of our honorees. First, to be recognized tonight is the Summit Parkway Middle School Quiz Whiz team, and if the entire team, if members who are here can come up along with their advisors and principal. The Summit Parkway team swept the district's third annual Quiz Whiz tournament held January 11th and 12th. Each of the 7 district middle school teams competed against each other for the championship title. Summit Parkway's team, whose members' names you see on the screen here, won all of its matches. The tournament is similar to the National Academic Quiz Tournament. The tournament rounds have begun airing on R2TV and are also posted to the district's YouTube page. So I would encourage you all to take a look at that. And joining the students up front is their coach, 6th grade social studies teacher Cheryl Hunter, and principal Andrew Bourbon. Thank you. have everybody squeeze together for a photo.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to have Dent Middle School Resource Officer Donna Tucker and Nursing Assistant Shaina Kiesler to come forward. If you are here. The quick actions by this pair saved the life of one of our students who suffered a severe asthma attack. As school officials waited for EMS to arrive, the student stopped breathing, and Deputy Tucker and Ms. Kiesler immediately began administering CPR until the student began breathing on his own. The student was treated and released from the hospital and is back in school. And joining Deputy Tucker and Ms. Kiesler is Dent Middle School Principal Dr. Randall Gary. Amazingly enough, we had another heroic staff member save a student's life. Also in November, Lisa Chappelle of Service Solutions, the AM manager at Langford Elementary, reacted quickly in saving a student from choking by performing the Heimlich maneuver. Accepting on behalf of Ms. Chappelle is Langford's principal, Cassina Jackson. And Cassina, I know you will convey our gratitude to Ms. Chappelle for her heroic actions. And we have one more presentation tonight, and for that I'd like to ask Blythewood High School's Student Body President Hunter Durham to please come up on behalf of all of Richland 2's students, staff, and community for a special presentation.
Good evening. My name is Hunter Durham, and I'm the Student Body President of Blythewood High School. I just want to take a moment to thank you for the time that you all took earlier to meet with our district's student leaders, and I hope that we will be fortunate enough to have the opportunity to meet again in the future. Over the past decade, I've been lucky enough to call myself a student of Richland School District 2. My family moved here when I was just starting the second grade, and my parents had high hopes that my siblings and I would get an education that not only taught us the value of knowledge, but life lessons that would shape us into the young adults who would be ready to conquer the real world. With this in mind, we feel so blessed to live in a district like Richland 2, whose standards and values match those of my family. And thus, my siblings and I have called Richland 2 home for more than 10 years. Growing up in a home where both parents were unable to attend college, I've learned the value and importance of education. I am especially appreciative of the endless opportunities that Richland 2 has offered me and my peers. And I'm happy to report to you that I have taken full advantage of these opportunities and will be attending Winthrop University in the fall. But as we know, college is not for everyone, which is why my classmates and I are grateful for the many diverse opportunities that Richland 2 offers all students, regardless of their background, upbringing, or post-secondary goals. My Richland 2 story involves many hours of studying, endless rehearsals for orchestra concerts, day after day of setting up for after-school activities, and learning to be a better leader in person, and figuring out how to balance all of this with a healthy social life. And my Richland 2 story would not be possible without the help and support of an active, involved, and dedicated school board such as ours. So on behalf of the students of Richland 2, I say thank you for your time, efforts, and dedication to the students and family of our district. Thank you and good evening.
Any other recognitions, Kim? Thank you. Ms. Anderson has a recognition.
Recognition. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Burgess is no longer with us, but she's still in our presence because she's sent a doctoral student and had the doctoral student to call a board member to shadow. And Ms. Boykins, would you just let everyone know who you are? She's a doctoral student, and Stephanie sent her to the school district. I think the class that she's now taking is public health with legal and legislative. Can't think of the name, but anyway, you got a gist of it. But at any rate, I had to call Stephanie to see how am I going to get 40 hours in between January and April, and we only meet twice a month. So she said that we could have her to do some research. So I wanted her to come tonight. She'll be attending the board meetings. If there's any research, any board members or the executive staff needs to be done, she's willing to do that in order to come up with her 40 hours. And all we do is sign off. But Stephanie said that she knew that she would get the best experience here in District 2, and she also asked Dr. Brochu if there's any time that she can shadow you to get a good idea of what your job entails. So I just want you all to meet her, know who she is. She also works, she's a biology teacher is it Midland Tech? She's a biology teacher at Midland Tech. And so if there's anything, and who's Fred? Fred, is it Fred to do a lot of research? Who's doing all the research? Huh? Jeff. So I assured her that we could get her 40 hours. We would find plenty of work for her to do in District 2. So Stephanie Burgess said to tell everyone that she dearly misses us and that they're doing well. They're looking at moving to Aiken, closer to Ed's home. And she said she just misses the district, but things are going well with her and her family. Thank you.
Dr. Brochu, is there a special from E.L. Wright? Ms. Wylie, would you like to say a few words?
I think I was up next anyway.
Yeah, I think it's your turn. Okay.
They say as an adult you don't ever want to follow an amazing student, so thanks a lot, Hunter. I dined with her. She's incredible, so I'll do the best that I can. I wanted to thank you, and first of all, welcome to the E.L. Wright Middle School. We're happy to have you here. They also say if you want extra points for a presentation, you should always bring an audio visual, so I'm just going to pass this
Don't need it.
around. I know you're wondering what in the world, for those of you who can't see it, it's a beautiful, albeit primitive, representation of a restroom, complete with a potty and a sink and a bathtub. And I know you're all wondering what in the world does it have to do with what you want to talk about. I brought that because it proves a great point to me. My daughter did that in her first grade art class. And the work that her teacher assigned was for them to please make a representation of their favorite place. Clearly, my daughter saw the work very differently than her art teacher did. And so I brought that. I keep it in my office some 22 years later because it reminds me that the way that we view work very often is not the way at all that our students view the work. And with that in mind, I wanted to thank you for the professional development opportunities that you have supported and afforded to us as administrators and teachers, because it's brought about a major change in the way we do business at E.L. Wright. Let me explain. At the beginning of the school year this year, we took a look at our after-school tutoring program that we've run here for several years and decided we had invested heavily in dollars, staff, and time, and really not seen the result for kids in improved grades or pass scores that we wanted. So we got a big group of people together, teachers and administrators from several different schools within the district and without, to to really look at our who, to look at our disengaged students and figure out why aren't we connecting with them. So we made a big long list of reasons we thought our kids weren't learning. And then we dissected what we believed was within our control and what was not, and focused solely on the things that we could influence or control, and looked at those in redesigning our new tutoring program. One of the first things we looked at was that choice is very important to our students. We decided that we have the standards and they have to learn all of the standards, but we could offer them some choice in how we went about that, how we address those standards, and further, how you show me that you've mastered them. So we identified that as one of the design qualities that was very important to that group of kids. Second was affirmation. Beyond my teacher in the classroom, who is this work important to? And why do I really need to learn this? Why is it important to me as a student to learn this particular information? Third, protection from adverse consequences, a safe environment. If I'm not really confident in this material to begin with, I need to be working with it in an environment where I feel safe to ask a question. I need to be able to say, wait a minute, I don't really understand. Can somebody help me? Can we back up? Can you explain it to me in a different way? And fourth, the way that the knowledge is organized, how we're presenting that to the students. Do these students learn best if we let them work together? Do they learn best if we let them work individually? Do we want to collaborate? Do we not? So we had all kinds of really rich discussion with kids, with teachers, and with other administrators, and redesigned our after-school tutoring program that is now called the SWAG team. SWAG stands for Student Warriors Achieving Greatness. We sent out invitations, and now this is open to between 90 and 100 students every week. We've seen a terrific change with our students in their grades already, but I don't want to be the one to tell you about it. I'm going to let one of their teachers and some of the students share that experience with you. So with that, Miss Barber, if you would come forward.
Hi, my name is Shaina Barber. I'm a 7th grade math teacher here at Wright, and I'm also one of the tutoring teachers, and we meet every Thursday afternoon. I was also part of the design team that helped create this new look for our tutoring program. And we really talked about, like Ms. Wylie already said, what wasn't working and why it wasn't working, and really what could we specifically do about it, and how could we change it and make a real change that meant something. So what we used those design qualities, and what we came up with was that we really were committed to the idea of a small group. So each teacher has 10 students that they work with every Thursday afternoon, and it's the same 10 students every week. That in itself has been amazing, and some of my students that are here will tell you about that in just a second. Me and my team teacher also have decided to do single gender. So I deal with the girls, and he has the boys, and then we do switch if we feel the need to. We also have only focused on math and English language arts. We have had a little bit of question about that. People have wondered, well, what about social studies and science? And what our thought behind that is if a student masters these important reading skills and these important math skills, those skills will flow over into science and social studies. And we have found that to be true. I have students, and they'll speak with you in just a second, who their science and social studies grades have come up, and we haven't even really done any science and social studies. And I really feel like it's because they're buying into what we're giving them, and they're putting forth effort in all of their classes. What has been the most important part of our new program, or our new design, is this small group individualized instruction. They bring to me every week exactly what they want to work on. They come to me and they say, Miss Barber, I need to work on this skill because I didn't understand. And they either bring real homework, or I pull out all the resources I bring. We, on the whiteboards, are working out problems. We make up problems. I make up problems. And we just work until they figure it out. And every week they leave happy that they have mastered something they didn't know before. And I think my students could tell you a little bit more about that in a way better than I ever could. So let them come on up. These are two girls from my group. This is Kiyolo, Hare, and Lissy, Escobar.
Kiyolo Hare, and I'm a 7th grade student in the SWAG team, and SWAG team has teaching me better because I have gotten more concentration than in a big group, and I got more concentration in a small group than a big group, and my grades went up in social studies. I went 2 grades up in social studies and 1 grade up in math. I went a D to a B in social studies and a D to a C in math.
Wonderful.
Hello, my name is Lissy Escobar, and I'm in 7th grade, and I'm part of the Wright SWAG team. And about the SWAG team, I like it because we're in small groups, and Ms. Barber teaches better one at a time. And then, and she teaches ahead of the class sometimes when we finish with all the work. So then the next day we already know what to do. And in math, my grade had went up because I went from a D to a B.
Great.
We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about that program or any other.
I just have a question for the students. How important is it for them to feel like they're ahead of the game now instead of maybe behind? How does that make you feel now? That obviously your grades have improved. I mean, obviously. But you said something that was very important to me, that you felt like you were ahead of the game. Has that been helpful in your regular class? Is that what you're telling us? Either one of them. I don't.
Because when she teaches something at first, and then when we don't understand it, then we tell her, and then the next day, that same day she teaches, and then the next week we already know what to do.
Next class, okay.
So how does that make you feel when you're in the class and you are already mastering the work?
Better because I already know what to do, and she can just teach it other kids, and I already know what to do.
Does it help you concentrate better, focus better on that task, since you know the material? Is that what you're saying, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Same way with you? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, it has been doing better in my math class because I was struggling on one of the order of operations math things, and I went to SWAG team and asked Ms. Barber how can she help me on order of operations, and I understand it, and when I get back in the classroom, I know how to do the order of operations.
So y'all moved beyond being helped to a certain level to even increasing your knowledge and getting ahead. And that's during this tutoring time on Thursday that you're talking about. Okay. Any other questions?
Chairman, I have a question, and this is to Ms. Barber. How are the students selected for the SWAG program, and how many teachers do you have in that program to accommodate the amount of students that may want to be a part of the program?
Students were they were selected based on their past scores. We chose any student that was currently scored the year before, not met in either math or language arts, or in some cases both. The number of teachers we have, I believe, is 12. What we did is we sent out invitations to the students, interviewed them, so they had to interview for their spot to show their commitment to it. And then we also, teachers applied and interviewed as well to show their commitment to it and what they were going to do differently than has been done in the past.
Thank you.
Good. Other questions? Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. That was truly a student learning report.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, our number 8 is our public participation, and I have one person signed up to speak. And remember, we're going to try to keep this to a 3-minute presentation, and you have to keep it professional, and let's not name names or get personal. And the first person, or the only person I have signed up is Mr. Todd Jackson. There you go. Just state your name and where you live.
I'm Todd Jackson. I'm from Blythewood, and I want to thank everybody for allowing me to be here. I want to thank School District 2 for my oldest daughter. Without them, she wouldn't be in her second year of nursing program. She's on the dean's list.
That's great.
But unfortunately, while I'm here, and the way this meeting got started out, it was kind of funny because when I was in school, we said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. It seems like we've got away from that. We had our mischiefs back then, but today's times are different. We didn't have internet back in my day. My baby girl, she's come to an age that boys are kind of intrigued to her. She made some bad choices. We didn't have computers in school. Well, I think we had one. It didn't have internet. They bring them home today. They carry them around anywhere they go, and they can get on the internet anywhere they go. It's really hard watching a middle school child in the world of technology today. And she made a bad choice. She's been out of school for about 3 months. Wasn't no violence, wasn't no drugs. And I'm just begging y'all to allow her to continue her education. She's a very smart girl. But to have one choice just to tear your life down like that, and I'm sure she knows it's bad now, but she didn't realize the consequences of such choices.
Mr. Jackson, that's why we don't want to get real personal here, because we don't want to talk about individual students. I understand what you're saying, and I would ask, there were ways to address this, but I would be very careful. I just wouldn't want to.
I guess bottom line is I'm begging for mercy.
Right.
Probation or something, but just let her back in school.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I appreciate it. Okay, is there any other individual who'd like to speak to the board at this time? Okay, going on. Voting on the executive session items. Student appeals. Do I hear a motion on this item tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I move on the following appeals with the following recommendations. On appeal number 1 and number 2, recommend Blythewood Academy. And you'll tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow. On appeal number 3 and number 4, recommend Wright and Blythewood Academy. On appeal number 5, recommend Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 6, recommend Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 7, recommend Wright and Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 8, recommend referral to the IEP team at Blythewood Academy. We're going to pull number 9 out. Appeal number 10, refer to Anna Boyd. Appeal number 11, refer to the IEP team at Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 12, refer to the IEP team at Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 13, refer to Blythewood Academy for the remainder of the school year. Appeal number 14, to deny the appeal. Appeal number 15, refer to Anna Boyd. Appeal number 16, refer to Wright and Blythewood Academy. Appeal number 17, to deny the appeal. Appeal number 18, to refer to Blythewood Academy. appeal number 19 to deny the appeal, and appeal number 20 to refer to Blythewood Academy. It represents my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you hear the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We'll come back to number 9. Okay. In just a minute.
20 was Blythewood Academy, yes.
Mr. Chair, could I ask for a friendly amendment on number 18 that for Blythewood Academy, but it's also on strict probation? Do we need to add
I don't
that?
think we do that. They're pretty, they got it under control. Okay, any other discussion? As you see, you have the motion in front of you. Screens, and it's time to vote. Okay, there's a vote. 7-0. There's 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, on the pullout on number 9, I'm going to defer to Mrs. Anderson, who will make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Chair, on student number 9, I move that we allow this student to attend Blythewood Academy
Okay,
on strict probation, not strict probation, Blythewood Academy, and I know that they will get counseling there, but during the counseling session, I want something set up with the counselors and the parents to monitor at-home usage, and I'm going to leave it at that.
okay.
I second it.
That's a long motion for Jill.
Did you get it? Usage, and I don't want to go public with my statement. But it must be monitored.
Okay, the motion is in front of you. Is there any further discussion? If not, vote, please. Everybody voted? Okay. 6 yeses and 1 no. Motion carries. Okay, next item of business. I don't believe there's anything else on the executive session at this time. We're going to have a second one, so a lot of this, some of this business, contractual matters and stuff will be approved, discussed then. Old business action requested. Approval of reserve fund capital projects. We were presented this last time. And Mr. Davis, I believe you're asking for approval tonight.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to discuss it any further? Or can I just make the motion?
You can.
Can I make the motion? Did you have any additional statements? Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize the district to, in the amount requested to be funded for the district's reserve fund for the capital funding source. I guess I need to open it up and tell you the exact numbers, huh?
$2,407,732.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this particular item tonight? Hearing none, you can vote you can vote on your screen. Thank you very much. 7-0 vote on that item. And item number 11, no action requested. 11-1, update on our security and our crisis response. Who is going?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jack Carter, our Executive Director of Operations, has a report at this time.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's obviously been a lot of discussion both on the national and state level. On the 16th of January, President Obama made a speech in which he addressed safety in schools. He addressed a broad spectrum of it. He specifically endorsed having resource officers in classrooms. However, he said that should be a district's decision. If a district chose to put in psychologists or social workers, he didn't think you should require them to have resource officers in the classroom. There was some discussion of funding. There was in the past some federal funding for grants. That came up again. There was also some discussion of allowing you to use current federal dollars and diverting them for the original intent and allowing you to put it towards either resource officers or social workers. At the state level, Dr. Zase and Mark Keel from SLED both made some public comments about that. Specifically with regard to arming teachers or staff. Mark Keel from SLED thought pretty much a bad idea. Dr. Zase said that he would support school districts doing that if they so chose to do that. There have been 3 bills introduced in the legislature. Senate Bill 249, which would state fund a resource officer in every school. That cost is somewhere between $30 and $40 million, and obviously that would change every year as you would add schools. Then House Bill 3160 would allow staff to carry concealed weapons. Again, that could be problematic in and of itself. And then another bill that was kind of put in with these bills, and I'm not real sure exactly where they were going with this, is Senate Bill 162, which would allow schools to teach marksmanship and weaponry as an elective in schools. I guess that sort of goes along with having staff being armed. We also checked with some of our neighboring districts and districts around the state to see what was going on. As you know, Charleston is a very large district with several constituent districts. One of those districts, North Charleston, the city of North Charleston decided to put resource officers into elementary schools. So they added 11 resource officers, at least at this point at their cost. Now, I'm sure they will eventually go back and ask the district to share that cost. Pretty much like everybody in the state, middle schools and high schools have resource officers. Throughout the state, some districts have them in elementary, most don't. We checked with our Spartanburg counterparts, and all of their districts, all 7 of the Spartanburg districts have someone at middle and high school. One district is looking at adding at elementary. They're going to the local jurisdiction is going to fund it up front, but they're going to ask the school district to reimburse them. So that's kind of what's going on throughout the state. I'm pretty sure there will be a continued debate. As you know, there was a shooting at a college in Texas today. That turned out to be 2 people got in a fight with each other and exchanged shots. Both of them were wounded, and another person was caught in the crossfire. So 3 people were wounded. But it started out as an altercation between 2 employees. At least that's the latest report.
2 employees?
2 employees of the college.
So the employees can be pistol-packing employees?
No, actually, Texas does allow concealed weapons, but you have to ask for specific permission, and they don't allow it at colleges, although today somebody in the legislature in Texas introduced a bill which would allow students to carry weapons at college. So that's a good example of why it's probably a bad idea.
So if we allowed the teachers in South Carolina, we could have 2 teachers shooting it up like District 1 had 2 teachers fighting.
Yes, ma'am. Plus, you just introduced a gun into a school that doesn't have to go through any screening.
Good report. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
Is the district prepared to offer any recommendation with regards to school resource officers in our elementary schools at this time?
We can give you what the funding would be, and I don't want to make a recommendation for the superintendent. From a security standpoint, I think that's the biggest payback that we can the best place to spend money. We can do some hardening, we can do some other things. The true payback is putting the resource officers in elementary school. That's just from a security standpoint.
Mr. Chairman, follow up. I'd like to ask if you would then come back at some time at either our next board meeting or sometime in the near future with a recommendation, not just on how much it's going to cost, but recommendation in terms of whether we should or shouldn't do it, and including that recommendation would be the cost and those kinds of things. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think we need to know the cost. I think for two reasons, Mr. Jackson. We know what it would cost us and our citizens. And our citizens are going to pay for it anyway.
I can give you
But
the
I mean,
cost.
but does it come out of our budget, or is the state going to make a law? Is the state going to help us in funding some resources?
I guess maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. I'm not opposed to knowing the cost. I was saying I wanted to know
So you want to know?
what is the recommendation and not let cost be the sole reason they don't
agree.
make a recommendation. That's all I was saying. Because I'm not hearing tonight that are we proposing that we consider that, not consider it, and if so, what the cost would be. That's all I'm asking. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know at one point, I think the Sheriff's Department had made a request that they have access to some of our cameras in the school so that during an incident they can more readily narrow in. I don't know if we're ready for that, but do we have camera
They can get
systems?
access.
They can, so we can grant them access.
If they set up their command post, we can give them access to cameras. We've done that before.
Okay. And do all of our schools have the camera system throughout the school now?
Yes, we have 2,048 cameras in the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Good questions. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Thank you.
Okay. The efficiency and effectiveness study update. Dr. Brochu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'm going to call on Sue Mellette, who is going to share some efficiencies and effectiveness in the area of academics for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Brochu. In your board packet, on your agenda board docs, if you will, you have a brief outline of what we have done with our proposed organizational structure, as well as equitably allocating our clerical staff. Just to give you a little background, for the last 2.5 years, we really have taken a look at where we are with our district as far as academics is concerned. And academics, as you know, encompasses special services. And so we feel like we need to better meet the needs of everybody in this district, students to parents to faculty and staff. We have reviewed the efficiency study, but we've also looked at other districts, both in state and out of state, as to their organizational structures to give us some other additional insights. We want to make sure that when we do this, if we do this, that we have a structure that's robust and pertinent to our current needs, but also fluid enough for future growth and innovative possibilities. And so to that end, what we have done is hired Dan Cobb, who is a consultant, former employee of our district. He began in the fall of 2012 and looked at our special services area and made a recommendation to the Executive Director of Special Services and to myself. Then he began in January talking to our folks in the other part of academics, and so you have the folks listed there. We're hoping to have a report ready, or possibly a recommendation to Dr. Brochu either the end of February or 1st of March. And the other thing that we've done to sort of get us ready for this restructuring is to really cluster our schools with our coordinators, and you have that cluster listing on your board docs as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you for the report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
I've been kind of going back through this efficiency study. Has been something that's kind of been going on for a long time. I've got one document here that we were given, and I think the board approved on 8 and 9 for some ongoing activities to continue to move forward. And then I have, and when I look at bullet 3.1 on that document under comments, it doesn't say that that was an ongoing item. On 3.12, we got an update, and on that one, under comments, it says discussions were underway prior to the efficiency study. And then it also says there were some changes made, I guess, that were kind of underneath that bullet within that. I guess I'm a little bit confused sort of generally where we are. It seems like that, on one where we approved things that were underway, it wasn't discussed. On three, the one that we got in March of last year, it changed to say that it was discussions were already underway and that we made some changes within the department. And then it looks like we're kind of continuing. And I know we had sort of frozen the efficiency study for things that weren't previous discussions. So help me understand, where are we? Why am I confused as the conflicting messages that I'm getting within our material?
Okay, I'll try to my best to clarify that. When I became Chief Academic Officer 3 years ago, I talked with Katie and some of the other folks about the possibility of restructuring academics. So those discussions took place prior to the efficiency study. And then when it was put on hold, we sort of put our thoughts and views on hold as well. And then we felt, though, by some of the board members, that we really needed to take a strong look, a hard look at our special services and that organization. So with that approval, we went ahead and started. And so then we just continued it over into academics. So to answer your question, we are continuing to look at the restructuring. And so I put 3.1 and 3.2 together because it does address the support staff and how well they are equitably divided. I did not want to, we look at a lot of different things, Mr. Manning, as far as recommendations are concerned, and so this was one of many of the different areas that we've looked at, and we're not there yet. We want to make sure that we make a good decision and that we have a structure that is fluid and flexible. We've had a structure since I've been in this district very much like it is now. It has not changed at all, and yet our district has grown considerably. So we feel like we need to better meet the needs of our folks, and by doing that, restructure.
I'm not against us doing it. I'm for you guys getting what you need. I think there's a lot of confusion in the public, and I've had parents come to me and ask me, where are we? We talked about these things, and it got put on hold. As a board member, I understood that anything that we got on this 8, 9, 11 date, that if you told us what was underway, discussions that were underway and what wasn't. So on 3.1, there's no discussion here saying or comment saying it was underway. So I'm assuming as a board member that these changes would be put on hold until we either brought this efficiency study back out or talked about it as a board. And then in March, that sort of changed. So I guess what I'm saying is I feel like you guys can, as a district, can just come in here and say, well, we were sort of already talking about that and then move forward, when that wasn't the understanding that I had. And so I'm all for it, for the changes. I'm not digging down telling you what to do or what not to do. What I'm saying is I think that we're getting very mixed messages and the public's getting even less information on what we decided to move forward with, why we've done it. And so I feel like I just feel like it's not right. We should have said either here on 8-9 that was a previous discussion, or there needed to be a discussion that we were moving forward with some new things that we hadn't talked about or were underway in March when we got this or some point forward. So it's not directed so much at you, so I don't want you to take it that way. I feel like as a district, I'm very confused. I looked through the two documents, and there's a number of places where things were said where we didn't say they were underway in 8-9, and then we moved forward with them saying that, well, maybe they were underway by the time we got to March. Very confusing for me, and I think some of the discussions we keep hearing about this efficiency study, we move forward with it anyways, kind of lends to some of that discussion outside the district. And so I'm very bothered by the different information that we've gotten on different dates depending on, I don't know what reasons.
Well, just to respond, what you have in front of you is where we are right now, and we have not made any decisions yet, but that's what we're doing. We're talking and discussing and using Dan Cobb as our consultant to help us
for
out.
that area. But on March, it says here senior curriculum coordinator has been changed to an ELA coordinator. Guidance supervision now with Kate. 2 FTEs for RTI had been eliminated as planned. So
Okay.
there have been some changes made.
All right, I'll be happy to address that. In the
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I think this is something that we need to take up at another time. I think to clarify everything, there are a lot of questions here, and I would suggest that Mr. Manning get with Ms. Mellette and get these questions ironed out, and responded to. Due to the essence of time, we do have to go into another executive session tonight, and I think those are questions that we need to go more in depth in. So if it's okay, I would ask that Mr. Manning get with Ms. Mellette either by phone or email and get those questions answered, so when we come back with the report, everything will be asked. And I ask the other board members, if you have questions when you get your agenda items, please call the people that you have concerns with ahead of time. Like, I had some questions for Mr. Carter tonight. I can do that at another time. But I think we need to follow the rule as to get your questions answered prior to the board meeting.
Ms. Anderson, I appreciate that, but I do think that we've been stalling on this efficiency study. It's finally come back on the table, and I think the public wants to know where we are. And, the last meeting we didn't have the material attached. We do now. I feel like there's some inconsistencies in what we're saying. And I just would like to just put it out there. We're kind of tiptoeing around this thing, and we need to just say what on the efficiency study is done, what is not done, get an update, and have it stay consistent throughout the information that we get.
I understand what you're saying.
So
I'm saying,
from a
Mr.
public
Manning,
perspective, I feel like we need to have it addressed fully instead of.
all I'm saying, Mr. Manning, is if that's how you felt,
Yeah.
I would appreciate you calling prior to the board meeting and discussing that, so that each one of us have certain areas that we're concerned with.
Mhm.
And so, because that's a concern, I'm not saying that's not an adequate or appropriate concern, but I asked the board members to call ahead of time to discuss this so that we know where we're going. I wouldn't say that it's being pushed behind. That's one of the things I made sure on Mr. Jackson's study, that it's not something that got lost in the cracks in the shuffle. And if you feel that way, I would appreciate you calling whoever's responsible and letting them know prior to the board meeting. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
That's all for this time.
Okay, so, any other questions from board members this time? The clusters, how did you, just sort of tell me again how you got the clusters lined up with the different staff members?
We talked among ourselves, and since we're so large and there's just a finite amount of folks who are working with, they thought it was a good idea too, and they sort of self-selected the schools that they would like to work with, and it gives them a point of contact. It gives them someone who can come in and work with the teachers. If there's a concern about another area, then they can call the math coach if it's the ELA person. And it's been well received by many of the principals so far. We just started it this year, and it gives them a more of a visible presence, if you will, in our schools and a point of contact.
I think point of contact is where we break down in communication, whether it's PTOs, SICs. I mean, and I'm not saying we break down on purpose, but I think that is where we need to make sure we do have somebody that people can call. Mm-hmm. And this is a step forward. I mean, to me, this is a step forward. And I know things are in flux. I mean, of all the recommendations, when I read the recommendations from the effectiveness study, I said we were doing half of them already. I mean, we were already doing at least that many, maybe more. I didn't count every one of them, but we were doing many, many, many of them. So, and again, I think we will continue to do some of these things. This is a guide. The effectiveness study is a guide for us. It is not a noose around our necks, okay? And we've got to remember that. We've got to remember it's something for us to use to do a better job academically or whatever the subject it is in this district, organizationally, whatever it is, technology, whatever. But it is a tool for us. And I think what slowed us down is we started thinking this is what we had to do or this is what we were committed to doing. Well, I never was committed to it. This was my second audit since I've been on the board. Previous superintendent, new superintendent. So I've been there before. These are guides.
Mr. Chairman,
we try, yes.
If I may, just briefly, I guess I want to kind of support what Mr. Manning said in a sense, not sort of fight it out in this room, but I will say, if you remember at the beginning of this process when we first received the study, I was very adamant about there were three categories. I'm sure Dr. Brochu remembers me saying this publicly. It was a category of things that we all agreed we would do, category of things we would not do, and some things where the district and the board were not necessarily in accordance with whether we would or would not do those things. And so because there was that uncertainty, we asked that the document be provided that would demonstrate which things we all were in agreement with, which things were being recommended we were all in agreement not to do, and then those things that were on the fence, that we would have those things presented to the board and we would vote them up or down as we went down this process. That kind of got stalled, and when that got stalled, I'm not sure if we started coming back until we started asking, as Mr. Manning is referring to the document he's talking about, where those specific items were being brought back to our attention before they were being acted on. And so I think the uncertainty remained not only in the public's eye, but more importantly, in my eye as a member of the board and a trustee of the public and the district, to make sure that there were not things that were being implemented that I hadn't agreed to or signed off on. And so I think that in the essence of clarity, that remains sort of the unclear point of making sure that there are not things moving forward that we did not agree to or not sign off on. And with that, I totally agree with you, Mr. Chairman. It's not a mandate, and you're absolutely right. There are many things that were already in progress, but we wanted to make sure that before we committed resources and funds or eliminated programs that were needed, that we could agree that those things were critical. And I think that bringing that back to a level, that's when the chart was done, if you remember, Mr. Chairman, and it was presented to us, and on that chart it showed those categories that I referenced a moment ago. But even with that, we went back and said we needed to reconvene some groups. We started to do that. We put it on hold. Ms. Spector had major concerns with special services, one of the issues that Ms. Mellette just mentioned tonight. We resurrected that, even though it was on the list, because she had some major problems with that. We asked the administrative staff to begin looking into that in depth, even though it was a recommendation on the chart. And so now we're saying we don't remember whether or not that was something we were in agreement on, when in fact, when we had those problems in special services, we asked that it be brought to the forefront and disregarding where it appeared in terms of a vote up or vote down on the efficiency study. So I think the challenge for us is to try to make sure that we are aware and up to date as much as possible in terms of where we are with those items that were in gray areas of uncertainty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Other comments at this time? If not, we'll move on to item 12, new business action requested. Approval of appointment to the Board of Assessment Appeals. Dr. Brochu, do we have a recommendation?
Yes, sir. We would like to recommend Dr. Richard Inabinet be appointed as the Richland 2 representative to the Richland County Board of Assessment Appeals.
Do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
I'll second.
And Ms. Anderson second. Most of us are familiar with Dr. Inabinet. Any questions on this appointment? If not, let's vote. Thank you. Well, you can call Dr. Navin and congratulate him on his unpaid job.
Yes, sir,
that he
we
is
will
now,
do that.
Has volunteered for. Thank you.
Chairman, he does earn $25.
25. That's right. $25 a day. All right. For 8 hours of work. That's about. That's good. All right. New business, no action requested. Item 13.1. IT data backup and data security report. Dr. Brochu.
Yes, I'd like to call on Dr. Debbie Ham to lead this discussion, and I think we have a report with some of her members of her
I'm going to
team.
pass the torch here. A high-level report, since you've already received a written report, is going to be presented by Mr. Tom Cranmer, and then we also have Tommy Carter, Chief Engineer here, who can help answer questions if you have any. So, Mr. Cranmer.
Thank you, Dr. Ham. Just as Mr. Chairman and members of the board and Dr. Brochu, just as background on this agenda item stemming from periodic updates that IT has given to the board on the status of our data backup and recovery, we are tonight providing you a report which outlines procedures in place tonight as they apply in two major areas. IT systems data backup and disaster recovery, and IT systems data security. You each have the report in your packet, but I'd just like to touch on some of the highlights of that report for the benefit of you and the audience. The report that we've given you really provides an overview of the essential IT functions as they apply to safeguarding the district's data, critical systems data. It outlines the step-by-step processes that we go through in backing up data and managing redundant copies of data. It also outlines how our most critical systems, our finance systems, our Power School student information systems, how they are not directly exposed to the internet, which gives us a level of security and a level to mitigate the risk by which our systems could be purely hacked or have a security breach. The report outlines some of the environmental risks that we have for our current data center, stemming from problems with significant or insufficient data power and cooling that we have in our current facility, of which most of those would be solved by either upgrading the site or moving to a new site, just as information for you. The report describes the services that are provided by the state of South Carolina that we leverage for monitoring our data traffic and alerting us to any potential risky data traffic or hazardous data traffic that we might encounter. And we've given you some changes that we have in our plan to improve our data backup, some of which have started and some of which are planned for the near future. And finally, the report begins the process for planning what those next steps would be as may be appropriate for the school district. And just summarizing from a very sort of a high-level perspective, we believe that Richland 2's information technology, data security, and data recovery practices are very, very typical of what you'll find in school districts around the country that are similar to Richland 2 in terms of resources and size and scope and that sort of thing. The mechanisms that we have in place to react to and potentially prevent security breaches or loss of data are designed to provide really a balance between the risk to the district, to the district's line of business, and the measures needed to protect the district's data assets. So we're trying to provide a balance. They really aim to provide a balance between appropriate security and usability. We know that there are many, many products and services on the market today that can provide very, very high levels of security, but most very, very secure IT implementations are not all that usable. So what we're saying is that we're trying to find the right balance between what our level of risk is and the level of security that we're providing. Some of our improvements that we have in the plan and underway are upgrading our data backup systems to provide better and more intelligent functionality. Some of that detail is in the report. You can read there. One of the key pieces is adding cloud-based replication of data. I know previously on some of our updates there was discussions about the proximity of our data backups, our primary data center being at the district office on Brookfield Road, and the backup site being at Richland Northeast High School. And because of the geographic proximity of those two places, it felt like there could be some better separation of those two. With the advances of technology, we now plan to add cloud-based copies of our data so that we'll have great distances between Richland 2 and that data. So that's a good service that we'll be adding there. And we want to evaluate the feasibility of adding two-factor authentication. That really is providing more scrutinization to the login process, two-factor, adding additional levels of security so that if a user ID and password is compromised, that would not be enough to get onto the system. We'll probably evaluate that. And really in closing, regarding our next steps, we believe that this report really represents a starting point for an internal dialogue to help build consensus about what direction we should move forward in the future. We believe that the report is a jumping off point for establishing whether the need exists to engage an outside contractor to do a security review of the school district. And finally, we are reinforcing the need for better user awareness and education of our users so that we can have a staff that is fully educated on the risks that sometimes we are presented with phishing and virus situations that have happened in our local government entities most recently. That's kind of like the high-level overview of the report. We'd be happy to address any questions you might have, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Mr. Chairman. I don't really have any questions. Tom, you and I spent some time and Dr. Ham talking on the phone about this report, and I think you guys are definitely working in the right direction and proving some of the concerns that we have with backup and security. I very much for continuing the discussion of an outside firm to come in to evaluate the systems, and whenever we're ready for that step, I think that might be a good idea to sort of get that third-party independent view on data security. And I think this is something that maybe annually we should look at some sort of update on this, because we have more IT, more data is out there on the web. It's important for us to continue this discussion and make sure that we are appropriately allocating resources to these systems surrounding backup, recovery, and security as we grow IT needs. And so I commend you and your team for the job y'all are doing and continuing to look at this and evaluate and find the right balance, because it is a balance, right, of risk and money and usability. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
First of all, thank Mr. Manning for initiating this conversation earlier. I appreciate that very much. Two things I would just ask Tom, I think they're important. One would be that there be a established schedule for testing the backup, so it's not sort of random and we do it here. I think that's real important, that be sort of identified and scheduled on a scheduled basis, so we have a higher level of comfort that it's being done every 3 months, every 6 months, but with some degree of frequency and regularity, and not quite as random. And then the second one, as it deals with the password policy, I think that also putting a policy in place that requires password changes occur on a more frequent basis, and again, having that in place that is mandatory, and that schedule be in place as soon as possible, I think also would be something I'd like to see included in terms of something more specific in the report. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Other questions? Okay, I have a pretty simple one, because since I'm not the IT guy over here, my question is, if anyone stole information on our system, would we know it?
We, again, we have the state monitoring system in place. That's no guarantee that, that we would know that. And I think we need to look at better practices that may be able to help alert to that. And I think the question is whether you audit when there are changes or accesses to your data by unauthorized users, or, that sort of thing. That's, if you have a pure hack.
It's hard to protect against the individual hacker.
It's very difficult.
Somebody's trying to, if a group's trying to come at you, you're probably a little better off.
If you look at large corporate implementations of IT security, those large organizations have internal IT IT, auditing, electronic data processing auditing, and those kinds of things that look for changes to data and logs and those sorts of things. So given the fact that in a school district IT, many of us, or the staff, wears many different hats that are typically on different people in large organizations, it becomes a great challenge to prevent against those.
Well, I think you've answered the question. It's very difficult to know if that happens to us. The iCloud part.
Mr. Chairman, may I add one piece that fits in here before you go on, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Mr. Cranmer mentioned the state system for checking to see whether one was trying.
Yeah.
That was not used by the Department of Revenue.
No, I know.
I just want to make sure the audience knows that
It was not.
it might have protected them. We hope it's protecting us.
I understand that. I just think I'm trying to show there's some difficulty here we have here. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the iCloud. In what respect? I didn't understand what you said about that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I mean, and that's me. I know you understood every
Okay.
word you said. I did not. So
that's the problem with IT people.
Just give me just a little bit.
Yeah. What? Again,
I know what it is.
Just very high level. Just very high level. What happens? Our data is replicated on a dynamic basis from the district office to Richland Northeast. Okay, and then it's replicated from there to a tape system. What we propose to do is to not only replicate it to tape, but it will be copied to a distant location, like California or someplace far away, so that if there's a severe disaster or a tornado or something and everything was wiped out, we'd still have our data would exist. When we say cloud, we mean transporting it over the internet to a distant location. We copied it to a faraway place.
See, I have a different view of that.
Right.
I wasn't.
Right. It's just nomenclature in terms of what you want to call it, but
Well, I just want to make sure I understand. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cranmer. Any comment?
No, sorry that I interrupted.
No. I understand what you. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. We have more protection than the Department of Revenue had. Yeah, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. Thank you for that. But thank you for that information. 13.2, proposal to revisions of policy AD, policy IA, and policy JA. Who's Dr. Brochu?
Yes, I'd like to call on Deputy Superintendent Cheryl Washington.
The district's mission statement and goals have been revised. They have changed over the past 2.5 years. And thank you, Mr. Manning, for pointing that out. That was something we did overlook in our department as to changing our mission statement and beliefs and board goals and superintendent goals within our policies. So these 3 revised policies reflect the new information, mission statement, beliefs, and instructional goals, or board and superintendent's goals. It's for information this evening.
And Dr. Washington, the date at the bottom of the form will be updated as well, right?
Yes, once it's adopted.
Okay, we have 3 revised policies here. One looks like the mission statement, and then the other 2. Any questions on this time? This is for information. Anybody have a question for Dr. Washington or others? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is 13.3, proposed 8% capital improvements for the next year, 2013, 2014. I guess Mr. Davis is going to do, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Brochu. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, you have this year's 8% proposal funding before you. No action tonight. We'll come back to the board at your next meeting and ask the board to consider approval. For the benefit of the audience, the 8% proposal is in the state constitution. It allows a school district board to borrow up to 8% of the assessed value of a district, of the property in a district, without a bond reference. And under the current status of Richland 2 right now, that we could borrow up to $20.6 million under that statute. Tonight's proposal is to borrow $10,950,000. This is split pretty well equally between capital in terms of maintenance of our facilities, and we're talking recarpeting, painting, the physical maintenance of our buildings, as well as technology and our technology infrastructure program. It's almost an equal split between those two. And it's an extensive listing of technology and capital projects. And again, for the benefit of the audience, if we don't have an overhead for this tonight, but we do have hard copies back here on the back row. Miss Allen, would you stand up if you'd like to see a detailed listing? And it's on our website, but she has them available if you'd like to review the listing. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Ham, Mr. Cranmer, and Mr. Carr and I will be happy to answer any questions about the proposal that is before the board.
Okay, there's a lot of things going on in our district under this particular fund, but I believe the $10 million keeps us at our cap. Then we have a cap that we're not going to go over on this 8% money pretty much within that.
Again, we could go $20.6 million.
I'm talking about a millage cap.
The millage cap, this would keep us, and again, the county auditor sets the millage.
That's correct.
With that caveat, this should keep us our millage level. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Ms. Brill.
Do the requests come from each principal at each?
They do indeed, Mrs. Brill. Mr. Carter, for the maintenance side, surveys all of our principals. We ask them, and generally they'll send in a prioritized listing. And we can't give, quite honestly, everything to everybody, I'll tell you that. But we certainly try to hit their highest priority items at the schools. And on the technology side, Mr. Cranmer, any comments on the technology side?
I'll just say that we work on an ongoing basis with our school's instructional technology specialists to establish the needs for instructional technology and operational technology for the district.
Does it have to be specific items? I mean, could it be the media center, or it could be anywhere?
It could be anywhere. Ms. Spector, you had a question?
Yeah, it just kind of goes back with what Tom was talking about with the data security on line number 10 for the battery and backup power system upgrades. Is that going to be enough money? I don't want to just throw something together just to piecemeal it. I want to make sure we're doing what we need to do.
Well, this item does two things for us. It provides us with upgrades to our UPSs around the district that we need for keeping all our systems running. It also keeps our phone systems running during power outages. And the other piece of that is it purchases a generator for our data center at the district office to give us extended power in the event of data outages. So for the extent of what we are recommending to do right now, this is sufficient money for that, we believe, based on budget estimates. Longer term, as I mentioned earlier, we do need an upgrade to our data center to upgrade it to industry standards, but that is a much more extensive project than what's provided here.
Like I said, I just want to make sure we're just not piecemealing until we get what we really need.
Well, the larger piece of that particular line item provides for those distributed UPSs that are all over the district that are for data center, data closets, and telephone systems. So those wouldn't be impacted by a larger effort. That's routine maintenance for those systems. It takes care of that.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much. For item 14 will be our agenda items for our next meeting. Dr. Brochu, we're at Polo Elementary School.
That's right. Polo Road Elementary, and our meeting date is February 12th. We have already listed a student learning report, an update on our district security and crisis response. We will be bringing for you for approval policy AD, policy IA, policy JA. We will have a report regarding transiency initiatives, and we will be bringing the 8% budget proposal that you heard about just a few moments ago. We will have a report on our second quarter financials, and we will be proposing to you revisions for policy JJ /JJ-R/E1 and E2, which is in the area of student activities, policy JLDBB, which is in the area of self-esteem promotion and suicide prevention, and then policy JICJ, and that is for the use of electronic communication devices in school, particularly our middle schools.
Okay. Items from the board members that they would like to hear maybe in the future. Looks like next time's pretty full.
Mr. Chairman, I don't care if it's on the next agenda. It can be on the next meeting, not the next meeting, but the next. But can we revisit the dress code policy? The students. I mean, we've just got different trends coming up that I think it's something that we need to stay on top of as far as the dress code policy.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also have an update on the areas in the efficiency study brought back on the agenda at some future time and brought current in terms of where we are with that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that should be probably once a month.
I think so too. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Other items. Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to our second participation, public participation. This is the other time you have to talk to the board. Is there anyone here? I know there was no sign-up sheet, so anyone wish to talk to the board at this time? I don't see any hands, so we'll go to board superintendent comments. I think I'm just going to start from my left and come across. Mr. Manning.
I don't have any comments, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Elkins Johnson.
Yes, I would just like to say congratulations to Summit Parkway middle school students on their Quiz Whiz team. Also, congratulations to the SWAG students on their academic excellence. And I also like to thank the principals who served us graciously today. So thank you very much for your generosity.
Also, I want to thank Sodexo and all the principals for the board appreciation dinner. It was very nice. And I know that our waiters were overeducated. But greatly appreciated. So thank you all very much. We truly appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Wylie. Everything looks terrific here, and proud of all the progress that you all have made. And I was impressed with your SWAG program. It sounds great, and good luck, and keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kudos to what my fellow board members have already stated. I also want to congratulate Spring Valley High School, Richland Northeast High School, and Condor on their accomplishments. Spring Valley has been notified by Texas Instrument that their summer international training will be here this summer, and Northeast High School, SIC, they're in the running for that, and Condor for their high-flying school award ceremony to be held the 24th at the National At-Risk Conference. And also on the dedication ceremony at Westwood High School. And I would also just like to add that in the future, as soon as a date is set for our dedication ceremonies, that the board is notified, because we didn't get our notification of that until we got our board pack. And I think that's very unfortunate because I won't be able to attend that because of my schedule. So there are oftentimes we're not notified of things. And I know that had to have been planned way before this past week. So it's almost imperative for board members to be notified of things of that importance so that we can attend. If I changed, it would cost. Anyway, I just want to make sure that the board is in the future notified as soon as dates are set, because I'm very hurt to have been part of that design of that school and the input on that school and not able to make that because not being notified until our board packs were delivered and the invitation was in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spector?
Hopefully I'm wrong, but I think that was already on our calendar, Ms. Anderson. I think we've just been bombarded with so many emails recently.
Could it be in what calendar?
I think we were sent an invitation. We got something on it. But anyway. I think we did. I had it on my calendar. I don't know where I got it from.
I didn't have it on my calendar. I didn't have an invitation. Anybody else have an invitation on it?
I must have dreamed it up then. She dreamed it. It was on my calendar when I went to put it in my phone. So.
Well, Ms.
Okay,
Anderson, I would like
You
to
just
add.
didn't press the accept button is what it was.
Ms. Anderson, I would like to add, though, if we could look at having some things later in the afternoon like that, too, because I think several of us work. So I can't during the day like that. It's very difficult for important ceremonies like that. It's very difficult for me to make it, and I think other board members may be in that same situation. So,
As well as parents.
as well as parents.
Mm-hmm. So it would be nice to have them in the afternoon. Or we used to have them on Sundays so that parents could come on a Sunday afternoon. But I got some bad hats to wear.
Okay.
But anyway.
Barbara,
I don't have
using your
anything
time.
else to
You're using all your
say.
time, okay? Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Wylie, for being a gracious host and a wonderful opportunity to be in a beautiful school. I'm so impressed with what you're doing here and with your SWAG program efforts and the young people that stood before us, seventh graders who were not intimidated to talk. Thank you so much for that. My greatest appreciation comes when I hear a young lady like the young lady who spoke from Blackwood High School standing publicly and thanking the board for the work that we do, because it's for those 27,000 students that I do the work that I do as one board member. I have the tremendous confidence in the direction the district is headed in, and I don't waver on that. I remain positive. I've not wavered since November in my thoughts and my views, and the evidence that continues to come in, Ms. Anderson and others mentioned some tonight, starting with the Parent Summit to the excellent overall rating on our district received on the state report card, to the excellent audit report, to the National Board Certified Teachers now placed in Richland School District 2 and the #1 slot in the state, are all evidence of my statement about believing the district is headed in the right direction. I have also expressed my concerns, and I think the district administration is clear about those, and although I express those concerns, I lend my full support to every district employee in their efforts to address these concerns in new and different ways, understanding that the evaluation measures, standardized and formative, will be used in the end, and the results next year, or at the end of this year, the results of those measures will speak objectively about whether or not the district's new approach has achieved success. Until then, District 2, I want every member of District 2's family to know that this one board member is squarely and fully supportive of you at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Dr. Brochu?
I just wanted to take a moment to once again thank our board for all that they do. I speak on behalf of all of our staff and our students when I say you are incredibly valued, and we appreciate your patience with us, certainly, but also your leadership as we move forward in a very different way, through the 21st century to do everything we can do for every one of our 27,000 students. I will also say that I was delighted to have our student leaders with us this evening, and I know that they were equally pleased to have the opportunity to interact with you, and I continue to be excited about the fine work that they've been about this year and their plans for their future. I will tell you that we were very pleased to see the South Carolina Education Oversight Committee surprise Longleaf Middle School last week with a top award for a video that was produced about innovation, produced by students at that school. The students were very excited, and they were the recipient of an iPad mini, and they were very excited about what their next video would be. We are excited about the dedication ceremony that we've talked about already this evening, and I want to invite the entire community to come out. If you have the opportunity, I know you'll see something that's very special, an outstanding school. We will begin at 9 o'clock with a reception and tours on Friday, and then following that at 10 o'clock with an official ceremony. And also I wanted to thank publicly Food Lion and its charitable foundation for helping to fund our backpack food programs at many of our schools. Working with our social workers, they donated graciously $3,500 from the Food Lion on Decker Boulevard.
Thank you, Dr. Brochu, and I really have nothing to say except to thank everyone involved in tonight's board appreciation dinner, to thank Ms. Wylie for getting her students here tonight, his two precious students, and it was an amazing performance. She told me before while we were eating dinner that these students were tremendously nervous, and they didn't know if they could possibly stand up in front of this board and give a presentation. And I said, well, we'll see. And boy, they did a great job, didn't they? It's wonderful. And I'm going to give the balance of my time to Ms. Spector. She says she has something to say. You know? Okay. All right. We're going to go into a second executive session. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recess public session and reconvene in executive session to discuss personnel matters and some legal matters.
Second.
Contractual matters.
Contractual matters also.
Okay, let's adjourn to executive session.